Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This week, my guest is Brittney Lincoln, and she is a partner and VP of franchise at Limitless Franchise Growth. With over 13 years of experience spanning home services, beauty, and medical franchises, Brittney has built a reputation as a connector, educator, and strategist in the franchising world. Welcome, Brittney.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Brittney, give us your background, kind of before you started getting into franchising and things like that. Where'd you get your education? What kind of got you going in this direction?
Yeah, so I graduated from college in 2009. Not the best time to be looking for a corporate job, but I got my degree in business and management. So I went to the University of Denver. I'm a Colorado girl, grew up here, love the mountains, been skiing since I was 3. And so as much as I thought I would leave Colorado, I couldn't. And actually, when I went to DU, which is a really small private university, all the professors had been, business owners and entrepreneurs. And that really got me excited. I kind of felt like, hey, I get to learn from people that have done it. No offense to, career, educators or professors. And so that kind of solidified it for me. And so I graduated. I did get a job as a receptionist at an insurance company. Thanks to my mom. Thanks, Mom. I was out there applying for the same jobs as people like twice my age. It was a tough time. And it was good, experience, but the path was to become an underwriter. And I just knew that was not for me. I could not sit at a desk all day long and write insurance policies. And so I joke all the time that I did what most people would do when I started my own business, but I definitely look back now and I'm proud of the girl that I was, because I think maybe a little bit of naivete of being young and not knowing any better, but I had graduated from business school and I had written tons of business plans, and I kind of felt like, yeah, why wouldn't I do that? That's why I got my degree in business. And so back in 2010, I launched a retail gift boutique. I did it with a friend. We opened up in downtown Denver. I did do a lot of research. We did try to find sort of a niche that wasn't being filled. There were no hallmarks or places to buy your coworker a card or baby gift. And we went on a block of downtown Denver that had all locally owned restaurants and stores and things like that. So it started off great. It was all the things I wanted it to be. I had worked in retail in college. And so I was like, I get to shop for a living and, other people shop. Like, people always tell you to pursue your passion. And I did. But unfortunately, and I'll spare you all the gory details, we were below a nightclub. And these are old historical buildings with old historical pipes. And on New Year's Eve of 2010, I got a call that our store was flooding. And that happened like 4 more times throughout our first year of being open. And so you always learn things, right? I believe there are no failures in life. There are only lessons. And so, I learned a lot about business ownership. I learned a lot about navigating challenges. And unfortunately, my business partner didn't want to continue. I really had wanted to move our store. So like many entrepreneurs, that was my first business and it didn't work out. We're friends today. So I would say I learned that friendship and business didn't mix. I think it can work, for us, it didn't mix at the time, but we're friends today. And then after that, I did spend a year in advertising sales. Great way to cut my teeth, 100 cold calls a day. And then I fell into franchising. And for anyone that's in franchising, we all kind of have our fun, interesting ways that you wind up in the industry. I happen to have an uncle that was a consultant. And so I got my first job with a handyman franchise here in Denver. I didn't know anything about franchising, but I had been an entrepreneur and I was going to be working with other people that wanted to be entrepreneurs. And so, thankfully that company gave me a shot. And fast forward 13 years, as you had shared, I've worked for home services. I've worked for boutique fitness, health, wellness, medical, In my current role with Limitless Franchise Growth, where I'm a partner and VP, we've got a meal prep company, we have a dog training company, we have a Pilates company. And so it's been really fun. And I always, kind of say the next best thing to having your own business is helping other people have their own business. So I've really enjoyed my time, and all throughout I've really been in development roles helping, prospective franchisees investigate opportunities and determine if, buying into a franchise is right for them.
So what is it about franchises that you like so much that you've kind of stuck with that?
Yeah. So I did not know that franchises were anything other than McDonald's and Subway when I started my business 13 years ago. And I honestly wish I had known. I had to learn everything. Yes, I had gone to business school, but that was my real world MBA, right? Writing a business plan for a fake business in business school is not like having employees and filing taxes and negotiating a commercial lease, right? And really being responsible for the lights being on. And so my business partner and I had to learn a lot of things the hard way. We did have mentors and we tried to use, resources like the SBDC and things like that. I wish I had known about franchising because you get so much support. You get a plan, you get a playbook, you have a franchisor, right, that's looking out for you. And so I think having gone through being an entrepreneur and starting my own business and it not going well, which sadly happens for a lot of people, right? I've loved being in franchising because I like to call it entrepreneurship light. I think franchisees deserve the credit. They're still becoming business owners, right? They're still the 1% of the population that doesn't, just stay in a corporate job forever. But you have the plan, you have the playbook, you have, oftentimes a track record of, right, how other people have performed in that franchise. And I think I really love that. In some ways wish, that I had known and I had maybe looked into franchising, don't know, it wouldn't have saved us from the flooding or anything like that. But who knows? Maybe just having that extra support, could have made a different outcome. And so when it's done right, which I will own, not all franchisors are created equal. It tends to be really mutually beneficial. It tends to be a great partnership where if you have a great franchisor and a great franchisee, it leads to success and it eliminates some of that risk of, do you have that great idea? Can you go out and execute on it? And, entrepreneurship is lonely. It also eliminates some of that loneliness by having your franchisor and franchisee peers to connect with.
Right. What, you just said that sometimes it doesn't work. When you say that, what do you mean by that? What are some of the common mistakes that you see people getting involved with franchises make?
Yeah, so if we look at it from the franchisee side, franchise owner side, people getting in, I will say probably one of the biggest misconception is, oh, it's a franchise, so I just have to put up the money, kick my feet up on the desk. I tell the people I work with all the time, there is no mailbox money in franchising, maybe vending machines, but you still got to go and fill the vending machines.
Right.
So, I mean, you could pay someone to do that, but you're still starting a business. So even if you have the plan and the playbook and you have the support and you have the peers and all of that, execution, Tony Robbins said it, right? Execution over knowledge, right? Execution over information. Doesn't matter how smart you are, doesn't matter how much money you have. If you don't execute on that model, on that playbook you've been given, you're not going to be successful. And then to be fair, the flip side of that coin is sometimes there are franchisors that sell and grow too quickly and don't have the infrastructure. So to be fair, unfortunately, sometimes there are situations where those franchisees are out executing as best they can, but if they're not being given the resources, the support, they don't have that team behind them that they thought they were going to have, then that's on the franchisor. And that's, I mean, honestly, part of what my
Right.
company tries to avoid with the brands that we work with. There's a lot of people out there that will encourage small business owners to franchise their business. It gets talked about a lot. It's a lot harder and a lot more costly from an actual capital and human capital side of things than most people truly understand. So,
No, I agree with that. I've seen people that have tried to go that route, and the problem, like you're saying, they don't have the infrastructure, the back end support to help these people that want to start a franchise and kind of piggyback off of them. And it just kind of, uh, if it's right, then the franchisees end up picking up a lot of the pieces, to take over for the franchisor, which makes it very difficult because they've already invested so much money into this, and now they're having to do more. When you were trying to, I'm going to say, marry up an individual with a franchise, what are some of the things that you're looking for and you're trying to help them find before they get too involved?
Yeah. So I will take a quick step back and say for anyone listening that has an interest in investing or buying a franchise, there are what are called franchise consultants out there. I like to think of them almost as the real estate agents of franchising. They would actually work with you completely free of charge. They do get paid by the franchisor if they place you with someone. So, to be fair, it really is kind of like real estate, right? If an agent's showing you homes and you buy one of the ones, right, those fees will get shared between buyer's agent and seller's agent. And I would encourage anyone, I'm never going to call out one individual, but there are great organizations out there like FranChoice, FranNet, IFPG, FCC, FranServe, where these consultants, and a lot of times they've owned franchises themselves, all they do all day is work with people that are interested in getting into a franchise. They profile you, they give you assessments. What do you like? What do you not like? Strengths, weaknesses, and then match you up. So I always like to give them a shout out because they're kind of a unique group of people in our industry where all they do all day long is try to help people interested in buying a franchise match up with those brands. When someone gets to me, which a lot of times, we get through a consultant because they will, educate them on franchising. They will help them hone in on their likes and their dislikes so that by the time they get to me, if they're looking at a Pilates franchise, at a dog training franchise, they already know about franchising, and in general, they already kind of know that fits, the profile of what they're looking for. But I always like to tell people there's a trifecta. One, do you like the brand? I know a lot of people like to say, only do something if you're really, really passionate about it. I believe there's two types of people, investors. I believe there's the person that really does have to be passionate about it. I've got to be a Pilates person to own a Pilates studio. I've got to love dogs to own a dog training, right? Whatever it might be. And if that's how you feel, be introspective and yes, only go for a brand that you can get passionate about. But there's also people that are just really passionate about being a business owner, whether it's working themselves out of the corporate world or creating another, income stream. It's very interesting. Franchising is kind of becoming this other pillar in people's investment strategies because they've done the traditional stuff. They've got Airbnbs or rental properties. Like, what's next? Franchising is kind of becoming this, what's next of it can create additional revenue, cash flow, all the above. And so there's some people that would say, I don't care. I could get passionate about painting. I could get passionate about cleaning out porta potties. Is it a business that I like, that I think is in need? And it's got the income potential that I'm looking for. So be introspective about that. Do you like the brand, right? Where do you fall
Right.
there? That's number one. Do you like the numbers? Everyone has different ROI goals, right? I mean, we could all agree that, hey, if I invest X amount of dollars, I want to see payback in a few years, or I want to see, this percentage of EBITDA on a business. But, there are people happy making 100 grand a year, and there are people that want to make 1 million. So beauty's in the eye of the beholder. What are your ROI goals? And does that franchise have the ability to meet them? If it doesn't, it's a moot point. My last thing is the people. So, kind of back to the conversation we were having, so much of what you're vetting by vetting a franchise concept is the people behind it, the franchisor. They're the ones that you're getting into business with. Most franchise agreements are 10 years. You can sell, but these are the people you're getting into business with. And so, if you don't just fall in love with them and think that they are the right people to support you, people you want to talk to every single day, that's my trifecta, right? The brand, the numbers, the people. And usually when we bring people through a process, that's kind of the order we have them evaluated in, because if it's a no to one, two and three don't matter. If it's a no, to two, same thing, right? It's like a three-legged stool. You can't have,
Sure.
one without the others. So I tell anyone I meet, if you're going to look at a franchise, look at those three things. And if it does check all three boxes, then you do probably have the trifecta, and then you've just got to decide, um, are you in, right?
Yeah, I've had people come to me that are like, "Oh, I want to start a business." It's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And it's just like, well, I don't know. That's why I'm coming to you. I mean, so I'm assuming that you have kind of the same thing at times. Granted, if they're going through that franchise consultant, they've kind of helped them narrow that down to a point. Um, do you guys work with a individual who's not quite sure on what they want to get into? Because many times, do you want to have employees? Don't you want to have employees? Because I mean, that's huge, especially right now, depending on where you are. I mean, I'm outside of DC, so we have a lot of people that are looking to start businesses or get jobs and things like that because of the downsizing of the federal government. So because of that, there seems to be a lot more, but they're not sure what they want to do.
Yeah.
How when somebody's trying to identify a franchise to get involved with, what are some of the things that you're trying to help them look at? And because maybe it's not necessarily a franchise that you are representing currently.
Yeah.
How
So
do you help them?
I would say again, I mean, that's really in a nutshell what a consultant would do. And you are spot on. Do you want employees or do you want to be a sole proprietor? There are franchises for both. If you said you're happy with employees, what kind of employees? Are you comfortable managing tradespeople or do you want white collar workers? How many employees? Are you comfortable with just a few and you would feel more comfortable with a small staff? Are you okay having a team of 50 people underneath you? Those are excellent questions and things that people do need to kind of dig deep on before they would look at a concept. Because if your answer is, I don't want employees, well, then we've got to hone you in on the franchise opportunities that are really, meant almost as sole proprietorships, right? And if you do want employees, then all the follow-up questions are, okay, well, what type of employees? What's your comfort level, with the number of employees that you might have? So you're spot on. Those are the questions people need to be asking themselves, and those consultants would really be the ones to ask it. Now, sometimes we do get people that come to us for our brands kind of organically, and we can work through that with them. And if I can tell, if I'm telling them about my Pilates concept and they're like, I don't want to have more than 5 employees, I'm going to be honest and be like, look, you're probably going to start with at least 10 to 15. So this business really might not, be right for you. But if they say, hey, I'm comfortable having, any number of employees, but I really want to have, staff that is super passionate about their job, I'd be going, okay, well, my Pilates concept is going to be great for you because
Yeah,
while people are typically part-time hourly, they're not teaching Pilates because it's bringing home the bacon. They're teaching Pilates because they love it and they want to be there. And they might even have another job that
yeah,
they work in full time and they teach Pilates as a hobby. And so those are the things, right? Or even um, hours of operation, right? You think I mean, some of the best service-based businesses out there, when you look from like a revenue standpoint and return, are emergency services. But
right.
guess what? If you're in the emergency services business, that's a 24/7 type
Yeah,
job. Even if you're not the, tradesperson showing up to, clean up the flooding or whatever it might be, you're still responsible for those people. And you might get a call at 3 a.m. that you've got to answer and help your staff member work through something. So, that's another thing to think about is, how open are you to having a business that's 24/7? Are you really looking for something that operates Monday through Friday? That is another good thing for people to kind of think through because as much as business ownership can create a lot of freedom in the beginning as you're building it, depending
yeah,
upon the hours of operation or the services that you're providing, there might not be a lot of freedom.
right. Yeah. And I mean, because again, you are the owner. So if something happens, somebody calls out sick or whatever, you have to be able to step in and take over.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can put management in place and things like that, but the buck stops with you, right?
Right.
At the end of the
Right.
day, it's still your business.
Right. So, like many business owners, you have, I'm going to say you have the work you do, but then you have your passion project,
Yeah.
which lots of times they kind of coincide, but don't always fit in all the same slots and stuff like that. So, tell us some about your project.
Yeah, so my passion project right now is females in franchising, which is going to be a online members only networking platform for women that work in franchising. So it could be someone like me that works in development. It could be those consultants, like I mentioned. We have vendors, marketing, sales, you name it. But we all speak the same language. And what got me thinking about this is as I started kind of looking back on my career and where I started, franchising, like so many industries, is not female dominated. We are still the minority, whether you look at C-suite positions, whether you look at franchisees, the franchise owned businesses, especially when you look at founders, there's a little more than 3,000 individual franchise businesses in the US. So think of whether you think Orange Theory, McDonald's, whatever it might be. It's a little hard to research completely, especially because people sell and things like that. But all the research and stats I've been able to find is of those franchise businesses, less than 10% of them are female founded. And then if you look at the franchisee side of things, while there are over 800,000 individual franchise businesses out there now, some, I mean, there are people that own 100 Taco Bells or
Right.
100 Planet Fitnesses, but still, when you look at those 800,000 businesses, some of the research I've done, it looks like only about 30% are owned by minorities, and women fall into that. So we could, hypothesize we're even less. And so I started noticing, these trends, and I've definitely felt it myself. And when I joined the industry 13 years ago, I was one of the only women that worked at the company. When I started going to franchise shows, I was looking around the room and noticing that I was one of the only women there. So forget sales just in general. And it's gotten a lot better, I mean, there are a lot more women that work in the industry now, but we also all tend to work remote. And that's a very common thing I would say in franchising at this point. And so, we get in our routines and we go to franchise shows and conferences and see each other. But collaboration is something that I will give franchising huge credit on. It is an incredibly collaborative industry. Whether you look at like a lot of franchisees share ideas and best practices, they don't view each other as competition. If you and I own the same franchise business in the greater DC area, our franchisor is likely spaced us far enough apart to where I'm like, hey, Gary, what'd you do about this? If you look on the franchisor side of things or development side of what we do, some of our best friends are our competitors, but we don't view it that way. We share ideas, we share best practices, and LinkedIn's really the only online platform that exists, for people in our industry to network. There are tons of masterminds and private networking groups, and I've even found, particularly for women, that you have a lot that are dedicated to female entrepreneurs, and then you have a lot that are dedicated to like female VP and C-suite executives. But franchising is like this really interesting middle ground between entrepreneurship and the true like corporate world, like Fortune 500 companies. Like we're regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. We have our own lingo that we speak. And when we're together, it's like you're, you know all that lingo, you're speaking the same thing, you have the same challenges. Even if I am part of a home services brand and you're part of a, fitness or food brand, but there's no place bringing us as women together in franchising, to just talk and network or find mentors. It took me almost 8 years before I had like true female coworkers and mentors. And so the women I've worked with for the last 7 years that are partners with me in Limitless Franchise Growth are kind of my inspiration for this, because they're who I call when something trips me up or I have a question or I'm like, have you ever come across, this issue before? Have you ever read this line of a franchise agreement? And I think back to who I was 13 years ago, and I love all of my male bosses and counterparts, but I didn't have that like sisterhood or those women to go to. And so I want to create this space to, yes, benefit the women I know, but also benefit the women I don't know. And for the women that, work remote and don't get to travel to conferences, to have this network of other women in the same industry speaking the same language. And so I'm planning to launch in the next month or so. I have a wait list going right now that people can sign up. It's going to be pay to play, but I would say very minimal. I don't want it to feel inaccessible. I want it to be more about collaboration and just a way to bring women in franchising together that's I'm just not seeing happening right now, other than LinkedIn, which I mean, you should see some of these LinkedIn threads. I mean, sometimes if people ask a question or ask for a resource, there'll be 20 responses. I know it's already there. And so I think sometimes you recognize these needs, and I just want to be the facilitator of it. That's my vision for this.
That's awesome. I think that that's something that is going to be very helpful, and be a safe place to be able to ask those kind of questions. Because I think that you're right. Many times, as business owners, and I think it's changed over time that we're all facing the same challenges. Call it something different and different times and things like that, but we're all facing these same challenges. And I think it's good to be able to collaborate together to find ways, because something that you may have already gone through in Denver, I haven't seen yet, but then it's coming and I know that you've already dealt with it. So it's easy to be able to, pick up the phone or shoot you an email or put it on a message board to say, hey, I remember you talked about this. I need help. And then be able to get that help and that support is huge.
Yeah. And even sometimes just being able to chat about, hey, we both went through the same challenge, right? But also celebrate your wins too, right? I really do
Right.
believe collaboration over competition. I'm not going to say that every person slash woman subscribes to that, but I think the majority of people do. So also to have, to work through those challenges, like you said, celebrate those wins, brainstorm things, I think that people finding mentors is incredibly important. I feel like I am where I am today because of mentors I've had. And there's a stat that says people that have mentors are 5 times more likely to get promoted than people that don't. And I think even if you're a small business owner and you don't work in the corporate world, then your business is probably 5 times more likely to, excel and grow and succeed if you have some sort of mentor. So I think those opportunities could be, and I mean, a lot of times when you're mentoring other people, you get a ton out of it yourself
Oh,
too. Right? You're
big time.
giving back, and sometimes your mentees teach you things.
Yeah, yeah. I think, you made a statement there about, celebrating the wins. And I think many times as business owners, we don't stop and celebrate, the success that we're having, because we're looking at, hey, we have so many goals to obtain,
Right.
and we don't take the time, and we're just like, just keep going, keep going, keep going. And the problem is that for all of us as business owners, is there really that peak that we're going to ever reach? And my thought is no, because once we get there, we're going to
There's
build
a new
another
goal.
peak and another and another, and so we're never going to get there. So it is important to kind of take that time out, and I think that that's something, that you bringing that to business owners is huge, because we don't do it. We don't do it for ourselves. And I think that's something important to be able to do. Um, Brittney, we covered a lot in a short period of time, and we could definitely keep going here. What have I not asked you wish I had?
Ooh. Well, I think I want to just revisit women investing in franchises. I know we chatted about it a little bit, but I don't know why. I wish I had a good reason of why so few women own franchises, but I would love for more women, and this is whether you work in the corporate world, even if you're a small business owner already, if you've been a stay-at-home parent, think about franchising. It can be such an amazing way to be your own boss, have your own business, expand your portfolio. For anyone that is a small business owner, you know how hard entrepreneurship is and starting something from the ground up. And I have seen tons of people, women and men, that have been true entrepreneurs have their second act be in franchising because they're like, wait a minute, all I got to do is execute. Like you give me the plan, you give me the playbook, like you give me the ops manual, sign me up. And I don't think it's I feel like it's a little bit of this life hack. I will say it's not right for everyone, but I would love for more women and let's say even men to consider this as a way of, creating another income stream, building out your portfolio, whatever it might be, your second act. There's a lot of people selling their businesses these days, exiting, even those baby boomers that are a little bit older. And you sell and then what do you do next, right? Most people that have built something are not okay sitting on the couch eating
Right.
bonbons. It's like, but do you have the energy, do you have the drive to want to do it all over again? That's where I think franchising can be this amazing opportunity where you still get to be a business owner, you're still being an entrepreneur, you're just following someone else's playbook. And if you can find the trifecta, like I talked about, I think it's something that more people are considering, but I would just love to shine a light on it and say, whoever you are, corporate employee, small business owner, even if you don't have business experience, I've seen people, not even have a college degree and be very successful in a franchise because you have that playbook. So that would be my pitch for franchising in general.
And I think the big thing with that also is that in a way you do have a mentor because you have the franchisor who their their investment in you is as big as your investment in them because if you don't succeed, that doesn't look good for them. And that's a mark against them. So, they want you to succeed. So they're going to try to give you all the tools possible to get you there. And in lots of ways, they do end up coaching you through the process. So, it's definitely something that, hey, I don't want to start from scratch.
Yeah.
I want to have and I always kind of equate it to, when little kids start bowling and they put the little bumpers up to be able to keep that. That's
Yeah.
what I think a lot of it is. It's helping put the bumpers up that are there to help keep you going in the right direction.
Yep. You got the bumpers, the guardrails, the training wheels.
Right, right. So, Brittney, if people want to talk to you, they want to learn more about your passion, or they just want to talk to you about, franchises, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so if you're interested in females in franchising, that's my website, www.femalesandfranchising.com. It's my LinkedIn and Instagram handle. You can email me, contact me on there, or sign up for the wait list if you're in the industry. Anyone that's interested in just geeking out about franchising, whether it's should you buy one, I can connect you with a consultant. If you have a business that you've thought about franchising, then I would say either contact me directly, Brittney at limitlessfranchisegrowth.com. That's my email. Or if you go to our website, which is just www.limitlessfranchisegrowth.com, you can read about our company and my business partners and what we're doing. And I'm happy to have conversations. Like I said, I really do. I love this industry. I love geeking out on it. And sometimes I love helping people understand that it's really not right for them, whether it's franchising their business or even buying one. I think, sometimes you have to find what you don't want to find what you do want. And I try to be open and honest about whether or not, this would be the right thing.
Great. I really appreciate your time today and enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
Sure. Thanks. Hey, this week my guest was Brittney Lincoln, and she's a partner and VP of franchise at Limitless Franchise Growth. Thank you.